Man doesn't know what he carries in his purse anymore, you know. My name is Button Gwinnette, a.k.a. William Temple, but I play the part of Button Gwinnette, first signer of the Declaration of Independence. And I've been sent back to give you a warning, 4 warnings from the founders. The first warning is about national debt and the sin of debt. George Washington wrote these words to Samuel Washington: "There is no practice more dangerous than that of borrowing money or incurring debt. For when money can be had in this way, that is by borrowing, repayment is seldom thought of in time. When you borrow money, you're not quite so efficient about returning it. The interest becomes a moth. In other words, you pay more for that money over time than you ever thought you were. And the interest becomes a moth. Exertions to raise it by dint of industry cease." You know, when you borrow money, you kind of get tired of going to work to pay it back. It becomes easy. It's easy to borrow money or print it, and it's easily spent freely. When it's not your money, you feel free to spend it on whatever you want. And many things indulged in that would never be thought of if they were to be purchased by the sweat of your brow, you go out and spend on. You know, our government is spending money to teach Korean hookers not to smoke. That's your money. In the meantime, the debt is accumulating like a snowball in rolling, George Washington said. We now have 16 trillion in debt. Patriots, our nation is now in 16 trillion in debt. $1 trillion is $1 million a day from the birth of Christ to today. 1 trillion. And we're headed towards 22 if we don't have a revolution. We are reaping what the government has sowed, and we allowed these people to take office. It's our fault. George Washington also said, "To contract new debt is not the way to pay old ones, is it?" You know, there are those who want to just print more money and continuing to run up our debt. And as my friend just read before, Alexis de Tocqueville, the great and good French friend of George Washington, a democracy, that's talking about republics, cannot exist as a permanent form of government. Do you know that all of the republics have only lasted about 200 years? We're a little over, aren't we? It can only exist until the voters discover that they can vote themselves largesse, that's money, and food stamps and welfare payments from the public treasury using your money. I imagine the only ones gathered here today are those paying taxes. Does all this sound familiar? From the moment that the people realize they can vote themselves money from the public treasury, the majority always votes for the candidates promising the most benefits from the public treasury. 47% increase in the number of people on food stamps. Do you think they want to give that up once you start taking the public money? With the result that a democracy always collapses over loose fiscal policy. Sound familiar? 16 trillion in debt. And is always followed by, guess what? A dictatorship. Just look at the French Revolution. Do you know that the first act of tyranny since our revolution was the signing of the health care bill at 11:15 on March 23rd, 2010 by our own President Obama in the very city named after the man who abhorred debt, George Washington. But you know, Alexis de Tocqueville said something else. He said the average age of the world's greatest civilizations is only 200 years, as we've said. We're over that, and we're headed over a fiscal cliff, which is going to take us down and down, and only be replaced by tyranny. So my first warning was about debt. My second warning is about inalienable rights. Thomas Jefferson said this: a nation ceases to be Republican only when the will of the majority ceases to be the law. Did the majority want the health care bill? We're ceasing to be a republic. He also said about the Second Amendment, the gun which I just fired, no free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms. How long do you think we're going to last with that if you re-elect Obama? And to all of us, to clarify the Second Amendment, he said the beauty of the Second Amendment is that it will not be needed until they, the government, try to take it. There's some who want to take it away from you, your Second Amendment right. You say, well, that's okay, I don't use weapons. Patriots, if they can take your arms, they can take all the rest of your rights and freedoms too. Do you know that? Can I get an amen? There are many in the government who want to take away your arms. And we're not talking about short sleeves. My third warning is a government, and this is probably the most important warning, a warning about abandoning your God as a nation. George Washington said this: it is impossible to govern the world without God in the Bible. That was George Washington. It is impossible to govern the world without God in the Bible. John Adams: we have no government armed with the power capable of contending with human passions, unbridled by morality. Oh my Lord, they're talking about morality. And religion. John Adams, how politically incorrect. Avarice, ambition, revenge, or gallantry would break the strongest cords of our Constitution like a whale goes through a net. Government can't control man. Only religion in God and belief in God can do that. Our Constitution, now listen to this, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Our Constitution is not made for an unrighteous people. Think about the times in which you're living now. Patrick Henry said this: it cannot be emphasized too often that this nation was founded not by religionists, but by, here it is, Christians. Not on religion, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Amen, Patrick, wherever you are. For this very reason, peoples of other faiths have been afforded asylum here and prosperity and freedom of worship here. We allow freedom of religion for other people, but the nation was founded on the principles of Christianity, which is the only religion that gives you freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, the right to bear arms, freedom of the press. I don't think you'll find any Muslim countries that will allow you to do that very long. Did you hear me in Washington? James Madison, another politically incorrect person that wouldn't be allowed into the halls of Congress today. We have staked the whole future of American civilization not upon the power of government. Far from it. We have staked the future of our political institutions upon our capacity to sustain ourselves according to, get a load of this, the 10 Commandments of God. You need law? There it is, folks. Noah Webster, you know, the one that wrote the dictionary we never use anymore. Noah Webster said, education is useless without the Bible. And the Bible was America's textbook in all fields. There was nowhere where the Bible wasn't an appropriate book to use. Alexander Hamilton wrote his name bigger than me when I wrote on the Constitution. Hamilton said, for my own part, I sincerely esteem it, the Constitution, a system which, without the finger of God, never could have been suggested and agreed upon by such a diversity of interests. Hamilton gave God credit for our Constitution. George Washington at Valley Forge, to the distinguished character of patriot, isn't that a good word to have? All of us are patriots. He said, to the distinguished character of patriot, it should be our highest glory to add the more distinguished character of Christian. Be a Christian first and a patriot second. That was George Washington. And my last warning from the founders. Noah Webster also wrote, let it be impressed on your mind that God commands you to choose for rulers just men who will rule in the fear of God. Webster said, when you look at somebody as a candidate, you make sure they're just. That they're just men, not in it for the money, not in it for the political glory, but in it because they want justice and they will rule in the fear of men. If the citizens neglect their duty and place unprincipled men in office, the government will soon be corrupted. Duh. We've got a corrupted government. Webster warned us, if our government fails to secure public prosperity and happiness, it must be because the citizens neglect the divine commands and elect bad men and women to make and administer the laws. Did you hear that, Nancy Pelosi? Patriots, we get the government that we deserve. So if you sit at home and you let someone else vote, God's will. you'll get the government you deserve. We've got it now. We've got to change it. Will you get out and vote this November? If you will, stand up. Are you going to vote? You kids, you can sit down. You got your turn later. As Patrick Henry said, don't sit down yet. As Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me. Give me liberty or give me. So join me in D.C. on January 21st. We're going to win this. On Monday, January 21st, at the inauguration. And this is my dream, folks. Wearing your yellow "Don't Tread on Me" t-shirts and hats and flags. And as Obama stands up and we say goodbye to him and yell, "We made this," he'll look out on a sea of yellow t-shirts and flags and realize we took him down. And Romney will stand there with his right hand up, taking the oath of office, and he too will look out on that sea of yellow and realize these are the people we have to deal with for the next 4 years. We ain't going away. God bless, and up the revolution!